The story begins with multiple system alerts appearing worldwide to warn citizens about a surge in bizarre events. A massive abalone had been discovered by fishermen along the coast, so enormous that more than 10 people tried to encircle it. It was believed to be a mutated creature likely affected by nuclear wastewater. Elsewhere, an ancient tree located in a popular tourist spot was growing uncontrollably with its roots stretching for kilometers, while deep cracks started appearing in the earth, possibly due to a strange seismic pulse. The alerts continued describing giant vines descending from the sky as though fairy tales had come to life. News also broke that subway rails had been destroyed in various cities, which caused injuries and fatalities. However, the general public paid little attention, as they dismissed it all as just another series of exaggerated headlines, not much different from the infamous zombie bite scare from years ago. In front of a local high school, students were gathered more engrossed in school gossip than in the news. Suddenly, all heads turned toward a stunning figure approaching. It was Chu Qingli, the school's famed beauty. Whispers broke out, with students speculating whether she was finally ending her relationship with her boyfriend. Most believed the relationship was just her way of being charitable. After all, Chu Qingli had secured a spot at Qingcheng University while her boyfriend hadn't even qualified for an average college. Their futures seemed worlds apart. Chu Qingli walked up to Fang Yi and called out to him. He turned around a bit curious. With a frosty expression, she said that she had reconsidered their relationship and that it wasn't practical. According to her, high school romance always reached a point where people realized they were not compatible. Real life, she said, demanded more than just affection and required compatibility and courage. So it was best to part ways now. She secretly thought that no matter how hard he tried to win her back, it would be useless. Fang Yi didn't say anything. Watching his blank reaction, the onlookers assumed he was so devastated that he had either gone numb or lost his senses. Given her popularity, they expected him to plead for another chance, maybe even cry. But as they observed him, they concluded he was nothing more than a commoner dreaming of someone far beyond his reach, a toad hoping to catch a swan. With a composed look, Fang Yi agreed to the breakup, which left Chu Qingli and everyone else stunned. Seeing she had nothing more to say, he turned and walked away. She panicked and called his name. With sharp eyes, Fang Yi turned back and asked what she wanted. Her gaze full of anger, she said she didn't care what he was thinking or planning, and that she wouldn't get back together with him, and she wanted to make that clear. Fang Yi calmly stared at her and told her not to flatter herself by thinking she was some kind of school goddess. Her eyes widened in disbelief and a faint blush crept onto her face. The crowd was stunned by Fang Yi's reaction. He knew that Chu Qingli and the others had no idea what was coming. The values they lived by, like wealth, status, and education, would soon become meaningless. They had no clue he had returned from a ruined future, reborn into this timeline. To him, Chu Qingli now felt like a stranger from a previous life. Without hesitation, Fang Yi left the school grounds. He had far more important matters. Popularity and campus romance were meaningless in a world that was on the brink of collapse. What mattered now was the catastrophe looming over all of humanity on Blue Star. Everything began the night before when Fang Yi woke up and saw strange cracks in the air that revealed glimpses of the future. Then the system appeared and notified him that aura recovery had been detected. Full activation was scheduled to occur in 364 days, 11 hours, and 59 minutes. When that moment came, the world would transform beyond recognition. Fang Yi was initially confused. Several phantom-like figures emerged as the system stated that the foundations of civilization would be rebuilt. A new era was coming, the age of cultivators, and strength would be the new standard of worth. Driven by curiosity, Fang Yi reached out and asked who it was. A strange light started to take shape before him. A system window appeared and explained that it came from the far ends of the universe, equipped with high-level algorithms fused with cosmic truths. Its role was to create cultivation techniques based on spiritual materials the host touched. At the moment, the number of techniques registered was 0. As Fang Yi reached again, he was stunned to see his hand pass through the system window. Suddenly, a monstrous beast appeared and roared ferociously. Fang Yi froze, his eyes wide with fear. Inside the beast's jaws lay a human corpse. The system then revealed that this was his fate as an ordinary person, the same fate that awaited billions of others on Blue Star. He swallowed hard and felt genuine fear. Placing a hand over his chest, his thoughts filled with anxiety, he began reflecting on his previous life. Back then, he had been just an average man struggling to survive through the chaos. He had seen his nation fall, watched the people suffer, and eventually perish to the monstrous beings. His last moments were filled with pain, rage, and a strong desire for vengeance. Now his eyes glowed with determination. Perhaps that desire was why the system had chosen him, why he had been given this chance 1 year before Aura returned. He reached toward the system fragments once again, knowing that very few people even suspected what was coming. He promised to use every anomaly caused by Aura to his benefit. The system began a new evaluation. Fang Yi's eyes lit up as the message displayed "System linked successfully." A new path had opened, and now everything in existence could serve as cultivation cultivation material. His mission was to gather powerful techniques and abilities to become strong and prevent the fall of the world. In the city, people were being warned that humanity was now facing an unknown crisis. The answers wouldn't be found in the past. Now everyone would have to rely on their own power. While most were stunned by the message, Fang Yi remained calm. He checked his phone and saw various alerts. The government hadn't confirmed or denied the strange reports but advised people to prepare. He knew this was Shia Nation's subtle method of warning. Seeing such reports go viral meant they weren't just myths anymore. His heart grew heavy as he recalled the past. Shia Nation's quiet yet effective handling had kept its people calm, unlike the chaos seen in neighboring countries. Then he remembered what the system had told him. Everything could be used. That meant he needed to locate the places where anomalies occurred. One trending headline caught his attention. Qingcheng University had just reported the highest UV index in over a century. A heat alert had been issued advising freshmen to take precautions and wear sunscreen. Many students dismissed it as cheap marketing and assumed the university was using fake hype. Temperatures that high could kill people, so it had to be exaggerated. Fang Yi looked up at the sky above him. It was full of clouds. He used a UV meter and found the index was at 0. That puzzled him. How could the weather be so different when the university was just 15 minutes away by car? Online pictures showed a blazing sun over the school. Registration continued, but the north gate was restricted due to the UV alert while other gates stayed open. Fang Yi smiled. He knew this wasn't marketing. Most people didn't understand what the anomalies meant, but he did. His first real chance had appeared. Changing into fresh clothes, Fang Yi made his way to Qingcheng University. Everyone was using umbrellas, and the trees had shed their leaves due to the heat. He walked to the north gate, which had the fewest people. Something was clearly wrong there. Shimmering ashes began falling from the sky. While other students ran away terrified of being burned, Fang Yi calmly observed. He sat down and reached out to touch the ash. The moment his finger made contact, it began to glow, and the system reported a strong yang attribute fluctuation and unlocked the data template. The energy surged into his body, causing intense pain. A blinding light erupted from him. Students shielded their eyes, thinking they were seeing things. The energy began burning Fang Yi's clothes. He clenched his teeth and held his head as the pain became unbearable. He didn't know if the system was finished compiling. It felt like he was dying. Then a system notification appeared. Compilation complete. Fang Yi had acquired a yang attribute cultivation technique called the Golden Sun breathing technique. Later, it is the day for new students to register at Qingcheng University. Our main character's ex-girlfriend arrives at the registration area. A guy offers to carry her suitcase for her. Soon more guys come over to try and get her attention, but she turns them all down, telling them she doesn't need their help. She looks over at a couple nearby with a sneer, but then a bright golden light flashes, surprising her and the other students. A voice on the loudspeaker tells everyone to stay away from the north gate. The girl looks serious and decides to go see what is happening. At the north gate, a huge burst of golden energy lights up the area. A dark figure appears from the smoke, giving off a powerful feeling. He takes a deep breath and his eyes glow with a strong golden light. A screen pops up telling him that he has created a new technique and earned 50 points. The guy looks at the screen and wonders what the points are for. He decides it's not important right now, but will probably be useful later. Time passes, and it is now night with a strange-looking moon in the sky. The young man then starts to practice his new breathing technique. The next day, a bright sun is in the sky and a new energy spreads through the university. Some students notice the sky get dark and cool for a second as they run to the north gate. A large crowd gathers there to see what is going on. The university's dean is angry and asks why no one listened to the warning to stay away. The group pushes through the crowd, which moves aside for them as they go to the center of it all. A hooded person with a serious look tells the dean to block off the north gate completely. At that moment, a system tells Fang Yi that he has cleaned a polluted area. He learns that the government already knows about these areas and wonders if there are other people like him. Hearing an alert about people not being allowed in the area, the young man knows things have gotten serious. The students see people in uniforms and wonder if they are from the army. From a rooftop, Fang Yi sees that the disturbance is getting a lot of attention. With his red eyes glowing, he decides it's time to leave and jumps off the building. Down below, the mysterious hooded person walks across the ground, which is cracked from the energy. The hooded figure looks carefully at the scene. This person kneels and touches the ground to feel for any remaining energy. Then she picks up a piece of the ground to get a closer look at what happened. The hooded figure studies it and realizes a person caused the energy. Just then, officials begin moving the students out while the person in the hood watches from far away. In the crowd, the guy's ex-girlfriend is shocked to hear that only one person did this. At that moment, she sees a figure jumping away and wonders if it was her ex, but she quickly pushes that thought away. With his grades, he could never get into this school. Far away at Fang Yi's house, the sun goes down and night falls. Lying on his bed, the young man complains that his body is still hot even after a cold shower. Because of the heat, he's afraid he won't get any sleep. He also worries worries that, because of what happened today, someone might have noticed him. He then picks up his phone and sees a popular news story about a cultivation association. The young man remembers that everyone used to think it was just a joke on the internet. Just then he remembers the hooded people at the university and thinks they must be from the association. Curious, he opens the news story to read the whole article. It explains the different cultivation levels, from ghost acts to total transcendence. In the comments, people think it's a joke, but he wonders if the announcement is real. Fang Yi thinks about how he never knew any of this in his past life as a normal person. Sitting on his bed, he thinks about the cultivation association and decides to try his technique again. He closes his eyes and focuses to start his training. In that moment, he begins to sweat as a strong golden energy flows around him. He starts to float in his room surrounded by a bright golden glow. A light shines on him. The first step is to strengthen his body to hold the power of heaven and earth. He successfully controls the energy and shapes it into a divine axe. His eyes glow brightly and he smiles, feeling full of power. The system tells him he has reached the docha level and gives him 50 more points. The guy remembers the points and reads the screen, which says a new path is now open. The system explains that the points can be used to put the compiled data into any object. He thinks about the idea of putting power into an object and looks at his mug on the table. He holds his hand out toward the mug with a golden glow of power. The system asks if he wants to use 1 point to put the yang attribute on the mug. He realizes this is like enchanting an item to give it a special power. The young man thinks that if he did this to a weapon, it would become his own special item for fighting. He decides that having a powered-up weapon will be very important for what is to come. The guy then finds a small sword on his shelf and decides to try the power on it. He thinks that if the test works, he will buy a real weapon to be ready for the monsters. Suddenly, a strange noise from outside the building gets his attention in the middle of the night. Outside, a dark creature with huge claws is watching Fang Yi's apartment. With glowing red eyes, the strange creature shows its sharp teeth in the darkness. It looks like a giant demonic rabbit and gets ready to attack the building. Inside the apartment, the man is completely unaware that danger is approaching. Lying on his bed, he feels uneasy due to the effects of his new cultivation technique. His red eyes scan the room as he wonders about the strange sound that resembles a rat. He doubts it's coming from inside or through the pipes and guesses it might be a pet from one of the neighbors. As he walks through the living room, he reminds himself that his enhanced hearing could naturally pick up sounds from nearby apartments. He sharpens his focus trying to identify the source of the noise, but something feels off. Alert now, Fang Yi heads to the door, and right in the dark hallway he comes face to face with a terrifying creature. The red-eyed monster stares him down, poised to attack. Startled, he recognizes the mutated beast, and a memory from his previous life sends a chill down his spine. Meanwhile, a drone flies across the city's night sky, indicating that others are aware of the threat. On top of a tall building, a young woman chewing on a lollipop complains that they still haven't caught the rabbit that ate a rare fruit. Calm and confident about the mission, she instructs her team to keep sending her real-time updates on the target. Moments later, the mysterious girl leaps from the building to begin her pursuit. She dives through the air effortlessly, weaving between the towering skyscrapers. As she descends, she senses the powerful presence of the mutated beast and realizes she's closing in. Her eyes begin to glow as she finally locates the monster preparing for combat. She lands forcefully on a rooftop with remarkable agility. Running down the side of a building, she receives confirmation to keep pursuing the target at all costs. She continues her chase without pause, leaping from rooftop to rooftop, warning her team that the creature consumed a rare fruit and could evolve further. Elsewhere, a man working late notices something flash past his window, leaving him stunned. He questions if he imagined it, but his boss scolds him for standing around. At the same time, the hunter appears silhouetted against the moon on the 65th floor. Back at the apartment, Fang Yi stands off against the creature, which lets out a piercing scream. His golden eyes flicker as he realizes his body has transformed. He can now fight the beast head-on. The monster lunges with its claws, but the young man dodges effortlessly. He notes how his new body allows him to see the attacks almost in slow motion. As sunlight energy builds in his hand, he wonders why a mutated beast has appeared so soon. Memories from his past life flood back as he steels himself to confront the threat. He knows the creature hasn't fully evolved yet, and the night attribute only makes it more unstable and aggressive. Realizing the danger to the entire building, he launches into action. Fang Yi grabs the beast with a hand full of radiant energy. Holding the monster tightly, his glowing eyes reflect a calm but deadly focus. He whirls the creature into the air, quickly noticing its tail is a weak point. Taking the opportunity, he seizes the tail and throws the creature with tremendous force against the window, shattering it. With his fist glowing with solar power, he prepares to deliver a decisive blow. A beam of golden energy erupts from his hand, hitting the creature midair. Enveloped in the blazing light, the beast tries to absorb the energy with its claws. Fang Yi suddenly realizes the monster is attempting to steal his yang power. He counters with more force, believing the sun's energy is too potent and that the rabbit is only hastening its own end. The explosion of golden light becomes overwhelming, and the creature is completely engulfed. Next door, a couple is jolted awake by the noise. The man wonders if it was thunder and checks the window, only to find nothing out of the ordinary. Meanwhile, our hero lands inside the apartment surrounded by the fading remnants of his golden energy. He reflects that the creature seemed like a desperate ghost trying to devour his power. The monster's eyeball drops to the ground, emitting strange black smoke. With a serious expression, Fang Yi observes the remains of the beast he has just defeated. Without hesitation, he stomps on the eye, crushing what's left. He understands that the night-dwelling creature was desperately drawn to his opposite yang-based power. Had he been a normal person, the monster would have wiped out the entire building. Now aware of what lies ahead, he knows he must master more techniques to deal with future threats. Meanwhile, the mysterious girl dashes across the city under the moonlight. She sprints down the side of a building with astonishing speed. Upon arriving at the scene, her eyes widen in surprise. Standing amidst the destruction, she realizes someone else has already taken down her target. She kneels to examine the remains and decides she must reclaim the night attribute. As she reaches toward what's left of the creature, she's startled by lingering golden energy. A powerful heat and burning sensation force her to recoil. She recognizes the energy from the university gate and concludes that this is no coincidence. Turning on her communicator with a firm expression, she reports to her base that the target has been eliminated by an unknown, highly skilled forerunner. A voice on the other end asks whether it's the same individual who cleared the gate and killed the rabbit. A man confirms they have no information on this new figure and the organization must find and recruit him. The silver-haired girl agrees. Carefully, she collects the remaining golden flame into a container attached to her clothing. Her superior orders her to abandon other missions and prioritize locating this new forerunner. Calmly, the mysterious hunter unwraps the lollipop she'd been holding, pops it into her mouth, and affirms she understands the new directive. But before she begins the mission, she says she needs to grab a milk tea to unwind. A voice on the communicator wonders aloud who this incredibly powerful person might be. The young woman agrees, admitting the president was right. They must meet this remarkable individual. Fang Yi's day begins with the rising sun. He stretches his body, ready to dive into his training. He understands that waking up early benefits his strength, so he gets prepared for another intense session. The warrior activates his breathing technique, absorbing the golden energy of the morning. As this energy flows through him, his eyes begin to glow with a golden light. Entering the Ghost Axe realm, he senses the familiar force of the technique awaken. A sudden surge of power catches him off guard. He quickly realizes that his strength is increasing again. The energy rushes through him and he concentrates to keep it under control. Clenching his fist tightly, he can feel the power focusing in his palm. He calls forth his key axe and notices the weapon now feels much lighter in his grip. Holding the handle with confidence, he gets ready to test out his upgraded strength. Lifting the glowing axe above his head, he channels a heavy strike. He ascends to the 2-star Ghost Axe realm, unleashing a wave of energy. His eyes now blaze with golden fire, revealing his newly unlocked potential. His body feels tougher and more powerful after this transformation. He had advanced so quickly thanks to the leftover energy from his last power boost. But now Fang Yi decides to move forward with more care, choosing to grow steadily step by step. However, his rapid power growth hasn't gone unnoticed, and he realizes he needs a more secluded place to train. Back at the association office, a man senses something off in the atmosphere. He notices the change in the sun's energy and wonders if the cause is the new guy again. Meanwhile, Fang Yi finds a quiet riverbank to focus on his next steps. A system interface appears, and he confirms his decision to add a special trait to his weapon. He recalls attempting something similar with another item before, but it couldn't handle the power. This time, the new blade bonds smoothly with his energy, forming a solid connection. A notification confirms the successful encoding. Excited about the enhanced weapon, he wastes no time and gets ready to test it immediately. The results stun him. The sword unleashes an incredible burst of power, sending a massive golden beam soaring into the sky. Landing with flames still clinging to his weapon, he feels the energy surging through his body. One swing nearly starts a wildfire, reminding him just how dangerous his new strength is. The thick smoke makes it clear someone definitely saw that. A girl dashes toward the smoke he left behind, frustrated that she missed everything because she stepped away for just a moment. Then she freezes in shock. The river is boiling. As she hovers above the scorched area, she wonders what the newcomer did. She can already imagine the backlash from her superiors. Everything has been chaotic since his arrival. Just then, a bright golden flash in the distance draws her attention and curiosity kicks in. She's stunned by what she senses. This shouldn't be possible. His strength jumped from 1 star to 2 stars, and he even forged a spirit weapon. The association only has 2 of those, and the method to create them is still a mystery. Suspicion stirs in her mind. How did he gain that much power on his own? Still, she doubts her instincts and chooses to focus on cleaning up the mess instead. Meanwhile, Fang Yi is far away, thinking about how his sword now carries the Yang attribute, but he's not satisfied yet. Since the system can apply traits to anything, he starts planning how to add even more abilities to the blade. Suddenly, his phone vibrates. It's a message from an unknown number. He had completely forgotten about keeping a low profile. Now a stranger is inviting him to join a pioneer group. He's shocked to learn that becoming an official member requires at least Ghost Axe realm level strength. The person tells him about a newly discovered pollution zone and invites him on a group hunt. Fang Yi asks for the location and the person sends him details about the lava dragon of the Shadow River. The area is filled with lava and happens to align perfectly with the Yang attribute he now possesses. Deciding it's a great match, Fang Yi accepts the invitation. Over in the Binmu district, a group of cultivators is waiting for an old friend of Li's to arrive. One of them mentions that the map given by the girl was so detailed he had no trouble getting there. The blonde girl thanks everyone for showing up and reminds them they'll need to cooperate to get through the mission. She's a member of the Cultivation Association and is clearly disappointed by how weak the current group of pioneers seems. Few people know that the Cultivation Association is a government-backed organization. It took major effort and family favors for her to get in, so she hates the idea of failing. Just then, one of the team members spots someone arriving and calls out his name, Fang. Fang Yi steps forward confidently, his new sword glowing at his side. He introduces himself to the group. The agent is surprised by his presence, but notices that his aura, while powerful, feels warm instead of intimidating. Now that the full team has gathered, the leader signals them to begin and they start moving toward the cave entrance. Fang Yi takes the lead, asking the blonde agent to manage the lighting. As they move through the cave, someone warns Fang to watch out for loose rocks. The group finds it odd that the cave doesn't feel as hot as they expected. As they press on, Fang Yi reflects on how quickly the group accepted him and senses that their camaraderie is genuine, formed through shared hardship. He continues forward until the ground beneath him begins to shift color, a clear warning that danger is close. They soon arrive at a massive chamber and stare in awe at a boiling lava river lying ahead. Without hesitation, Fang charges toward it, drawing a yell from the blonde agent who warns him not to act so recklessly. To everyone's shock, Fang plunges his sword directly into the lava. Panic breaks out as the team screams for help. A fiery eruption blasts them backward. At the same moment, Fang Yi's system detects a global anomaly and begins analyzing the situation. As Fang Yi thrust his sword into the molten lava, his system quickly scanned the unusual energy and unveiled a new ability, the Inner Flame. This power possessed an extremely high internal temperature and volatile explosive traits. Alongside it came the Scarlet Flame Sword technique, which activated upon unsheathing the sword, wrapping the blade in fire and lightning. Firm in his resolve, Fang Yi tightened his grip on the sword. His eyes and weapon radiated intense heat and energy. It was an ideal technique for his Tang blade. Far below, the other explorers, still reeling from an earlier blast, looked on in disbelief as Fang Yi stood untouched amidst a swirling blaze. They realized his weapon was actively drawing power from the lava itself. Wasting no time, Fang Yi used his script points to permanently infuse the Scarlet Flame trait into his sword, which now emitted a constant fairy glow. As the flames died down, his companions assumed he had just overcome a minor cultivation mishap. Relief spread through the group as they noticed the cave's spiritual energy had stabilized. One team member celebrated how easily they could now absorb the energy, while another, on the verge of starting his cultivation journey, excitedly called out Xiaoya's name. The blonde agent Xiaoya encouraged them to continue cultivating while she stood guard, and the group thanked her for creating the opportunity. Their moment of peace was broken when Xia detected movement near the entrance and warned that other pioneers were approaching. 3 burly men arrived, led by one wearing an eye patch with glowing red eyes. He arrogantly claimed that the land rich in resources now belonged to them. Xia's expression darkened as she could tell all 3 newcomers had reached the 1-star Ghost Axe realm, which was a level her team couldn't compete with. Despite the tension, Xiaoya tried to defuse the situation. She calmly explained that her team had arrived first and even offered to share the space, but her offer was mocked. The leader with the eye patch insulted her cultivation level and demanded they leave or face the consequences. Xiaoya's expression grew serious. She thought about the brutal reality of the strong preying on the weak in this era. Still, as a representative of the Xia Nations Association, she couldn't simply back down. Right as things were heating up, Fang Yi stepped forward, placing himself between Xiaoya and the aggressors. With flames dancing along his sword, he asked coldly if the man had nothing better to do than intimidate a woman. The eye patch-wearing man was stunned speechless. Without waiting for a response, Fang Yi unleashed a single powerful slash that erupted into a fiery explosion, blasting the 3 enemies backward. The shock of the strike snapped Fang Yi's teammates out of their meditation. He thought back to the damage caused by those who embraced the survival of the fittest mindset, knowing that only superior strength could deal with such people. To prove his point, Fang Yi stabbed his sword into the ground in front of the enemy leader. Bathed in a golden aura, he ordered them to leave. The leader, overwhelmed by fear, called Fang Yi a monster and shouted for his men to retreat as they scrambled away. Fang Yi's team quickly gathered around him, buzzing with excitement at his display of power. He simply smiled and suggested it was time to move on. As the team departed, Xiaoya silently reflected on what she'd seen. Convinced Fang Yi had been holding back, she realized he was likely a top-tier pioneer and decided to report the discovery to her organization right away. The scene shifts to the headquarters of the Spiritual Energy Cultivation Association. A female staff member speaking with Xiaoya over the phone repeated in shock that yet another high-attribute pioneer had emerged. Nervously realizing she might have revealed too much, especially with a towering figure standing silently behind her, she quickly ended the call after confirming the report. Trying to lighten the mood, she turned and asked her gray-haired superior if they were lucky to encounter two high-attribute pioneers in quick succession. But the man sternly corrected her. This had nothing to do with luck. He explained that every high-attribute individual inevitably becomes a new source of power, which placed an enormous burden on his shoulders. Back under the clear sky, Fang Yi walked through the city. He tried to pass as a cosplayer, but his commanding presence and authentic sword only drew more attention. Glancing at his phone, he saw that news of the cave incident had already gone viral. He scolded himself for being careless, realizing that the burst of his inner flame had been too dramatic to go unnoticed. He dismissed the idea that his teammates would betray him and instead focused on the more pressing issue. The massive yang energy surging within him was pushing him toward another breakthrough. He had to find a secluded place fast and set off for the back mountain. Just 5 minutes later, on the same mountain, a silver-haired girl named Su Qingying, who was an expert in garden restoration, sensed a powerful force erupting nearby. She witnessed a brilliant burst of light like a miniature sun and immediately recognized it as a sign of someone breaking through to the 3-star Ghost Axe realm. The intensity of the energy left her stunned. She had never imagined a breakthrough at that level could be so overwhelming. Driven by duty and a flash of recognition, she sprinted toward the source, determined that this time she would discover the cultivator responsible. High atop the mountain, Fang Yi remained fully focused on his breakthrough. He absorbed vast streams of golden energy that swirled around him before condensing into a brilliant sun-like sphere above his head. As he meditated midair, the energy behind him shaped itself into a complex star-like divine pattern. Sparks of golden light danced across his skin, and his eyes gleamed with intense power as he struggled to tame the chaotic energy. Eventually, it all fused together into the form of an enormous divine axe, composed of pure golden and light blue energy crackling with immense power. At that moment, Su Qingying arrived, freezing in her tracks at the breathtaking sight before her. In complete disbelief, she watched as the mysterious man prepared to swing the divine weapon he had just forged. His mastery was astonishing. She found it hard to believe anyone could control so much spiritual force with such flawless precision and stability. The sight triggered a painful memory. Su Qing recalled her own attempt to break through to the Ghost Axe 2-star level. The pressure from her divine axe had overwhelmed her, forcing her to cough up blood and confining her to bed for a week. Now witnessing this person's breakthrough, which far surpassed hers, she couldn't comprehend how he managed it. As she moved closer, her amazement grew. The sheer amount of spiritual force, the exact control in each motion, and the way every ounce of energy appeared to have been refined countless times was beyond anything she'd witnessed. In her mind, this person wasn't just a prodigy. He was like a god who had descended from the heavens. Her thoughts were interrupted as the massive flaming divine axe began to move. With great purpose, it swung eastward. At the peak of his transformation, Fang Yi's eyes radiated a piercing golden light. Raw energy fissures spread across his face as he hovered inside a blinding golden storm. With firm control, he harnessed all the energy he had summoned and completed his evolution. A system message appeared confirming his success. He had advanced to the Ghost Axe Realm 2-star. The divine axe smashed into the ground, unleashing a colossal shockwave that tore across the mountainside. Su Qingying, caught in the blast, struggled to hold her footing against the surging wave of golden force. The energy cut a wide path through the forest before finally fading. But when she looked up, the man had already vanished. Breathing heavily both from effort and frustration, she couldn't believe she had missed him again, despite arriving within just 30 seconds. A troubling thought struck her. He must have realized she was tracking him. If he continued to be this elusive, her mission to recruit him might prove impossible. Just as she was about to give up, something made her pause. A new idea came to her, and focused on an ancient tree. With renewed determination, she called out to the seemingly empty woods, addressing him as Senior, and asking if he was still nearby. From within the forest shadows, Fang Yi emerged. His hooded figure radiated a calm, collected presence, and his glowing red eyes locked onto Su Qingying. He immediately understood that she was the one who had been investigating him. Now exposed, Su Qingying stood tall and introduced herself properly. She identified herself as captain of the Firefly Squad, a division of the Xia Nation's Spiritual Practitioners Association and one of the country's earliest pioneers. On behalf of the organization, she sincerely invited him to join. She admitted to following him for the past 2 days and hoped her methods hadn't offended him. Fang Yi remained silent, his expression unreadable beneath his hood. Su Qingying added that although the public wasn't yet aware all the necessary documentation for the association had been finalized, internally she was anxious, choosing her words with care, fearful that she might annoy or anger someone so powerful. She knew she had to sound both humble and respectful, but her carefully rehearsed words were suddenly interrupted by a blunt question from Fang Yi. Why should I join? His straightforwardness caught her completely off guard. She hesitated, unsure of how to respond. It became clear that flowery speeches wouldn't sway someone like him. She had no choice but to tell the truth. Gathering herself, she explained the association's purpose. The Shia nation wanted to unite all early pioneers, guiding them along a structured path while offering them added protection. She acknowledged that spiritual growth was currently chaotic and that such an organization might seem like a prison to someone as free-spirited as him. But she urged him to see the larger picture. A major surge in spiritual energy was approaching, and they would need to stand united to confront unknown future threats. After listening to her passionate appeal, Fang Yi leaned casually against a tree, looking worn out and detached. He plainly told her he had no intention of joining. He explained that at the moment he couldn't place his trust in her or the organization she represented. Su Qingying stood in stunned silence, eyes wide in disbelief. His rejection left her rattled. Desperate, she quickly pulled out her ID card from her jacket, holding it up for him to see. She reintroduced herself as Su Qingying and mentioned her past as a well-known athlete before the return of spiritual energy. She pleaded with him to trust her, hoping her identity would earn his confidence. Fang Yi paused to consider. Touching his chin thoughtfully, he admitted that her name rang a bell. A vague memory surfaced, an image of her celebrating as the runner-up in the Shia nation's long-distance championship. He realized her athletic ability must have made her an exceptional and swift pioneer. But then his expression darkened. A memory from his previous life came rushing in, an image of a devastated city. He recalled that, in his original timeline, the efforts of the Shia nation, including the association, ultimately failed, leading to humanity's downfall. With a more thoughtful expression, he looked at Su Qingying and confirmed that he remembered her. He said he would consider her offer, but before she could reply, he shot into the sky and vanished. Moments later, he reappeared right behind her, catching her off guard. He gave her one condition. She must keep his whereabouts secret from everyone. Silently analyzing her respectful conduct, he concluded that the association was cautious around powerful pioneers who hadn't joined them. He saw this as a potential weakness he could exploit. Su Qingying proposed a compromise. Since the association had detected his breakthrough, she had to submit a report. She offered to send one that mixed truth and falsehood, concealing his identity while satisfying her superiors. After a short pause, Fang Yi agreed. As she tried to call out to him again, he vanished once more. She chased down the mountainside after him, but it was pointless. Exhausted and irritated, she wandered alone along a forest path, mumbling about how he kept slipping away and how hard it was to erase the energy traces he left behind. Her thoughts were interrupted by a voice in her earpiece, reminding her to stop worrying about the elusive pioneer and focus on the bigger mission. The voice informed her that the strange creatures had returned. She froze in place, eyes wide in horror, and asked if it was really true. A chilling memory surged in her mind, being surrounded by bloodthirsty wolf-like monsters with glowing red eyes and bloodied mouths. She knew she would never forget those terrifying beasts. The narrative explained what they were. Ruthless, cold creatures born from the polluted zones, created by the reawakening of spiritual energy. They thrived in these zones, evolving into monsters that consumed humans. Some even mimicked natural disasters, tearing apart landscapes and creating more pollution zones. If left unchecked, their destructive nature would lead them to devour the entire human world. Suddenly, a violent storm hit the city. Instead of streetlights, the night was lit by endless flashes of lightning. Torrential rain poured down and phones buzzed with emergency alerts warning of the extreme thunderstorm, urging everyone to stay indoors. One message reported that the Yu Huang mountain region was closed off due to possible flooding. From their windows, citizens remarked that they hadn't seen such a storm in years. Some joked that a powerful being must be undergoing a lightning trial. In a dark, rain-drenched alley, Fang Yi watched the storm with a serious expression, one glowing red eye visible beneath his hood. He could sense the overwhelming amount of lightning energy in the air. Realizing this wasn't just any storm, but another anomaly, he scanned past the city skyline until his gaze locked onto a distant mountain peak repeatedly struck by lightning. That was the eye of the storm. Without delay, Fang Yi dashed into the rain, leaping over rooftops as he raced toward the mountain. Upon reaching the base of Yu Huang Mountain, his system immediately confirmed the presence of a pollution zone. Looking up, he saw not the mountain's natural beauty, but a grim scene with skeletal remains strewn among deformed trees. A new system alert warned that the pollution level was unknown. Even so, Fang Yi pushed forward, walking into the stormy forest with unwavering determination. As he neared the storm's center, a colossal bolt of blue lightning struck the summit, illuminating the landscape in a blinding flash. He had found his target. Inside the command center of the Spiritual Practitioners Association, a tense meeting, one official reported that the threat at Mount Yuhuang was rapidly increasing. As a result, the mountain had to be sealed off and reclassified as a contamination zone. With a stern expression, the association's leader stated the crisis was severe enough to pull Su Qingyi from another vital operation. He asked her to brief them on the situation. Su Qing informed the officials that climbing the mountain was currently impossible. The unstable thunder energy hovering there was nearing explosion levels. Due to this, the area had officially been marked as an A-level contamination zone. She went on to deliver more alarming information. Based on how fast the energy was growing, the mountain would soon escalate to an S-level threat, triggering their highest level of emergency response. However, she also highlighted a serious issue. Based on their collected data, none of their explorers were capable of approaching the site safely. Not even she could withstand the storm. Her words sent a wave of unease across the room as simulations showed the mission would mean certain death, even for their most elite operatives. Confronted with this impossible scenario, a man in a security uniform ordered a complete lockdown around the base of Mount Yuhuang. Patrols were to be stationed around the clock to prevent anyone from attempting to enter. The association leader firmly agreed. He declared that the only option was to isolate the mountain until the energy levels dropped. But while the officials deemed the mountain too perilous, Fang Yi was already deep within the danger zone. Massive bolts of blue lightning were crashing down around him. Despite the violent storm, Fang Yi stood tall, surrounded by a golden aura produced by his breathing technique. Yet he knew mere survival wasn't enough. To acquire the purest form of thunder energy, he had to reach the heart of the storm at the very peak of the mountain. His resolve was driven by dark memories of the past. He understood that the monsters they were currently battling were just the beginning, and far more terrifying creatures were on the horizon. Realizing his fire-based powers wouldn't be enough, he knew he had to grow stronger, not just rely on his weapon. With lightning raging around him, Fang Yi saw a rare chance to use the thunder energy to enhance his body. If he didn't seize this opportunity, he would be powerless against the disasters that lay ahead. His eyes shining with golden light, he drew his flaming sword and let out a fierce roar before thrusting it into a massive streak of blue lightning. The energy surged through his body, inflicting agonizing pain, but his expression remained resolute. His entire frame trembled under the violent current. This thunder energy felt like divine punishment, as though it were fighting against him. The storm seemed enraged by his intrusion and was trying to force him out. Gazing up at the stormy sky, he questioned how he could possibly make such a chaotic force submit. Then an idea struck him. He calmed himself and recalled a rule from his system. To gain a power, he needed to touch its source. A brilliant golden aura erupted from him as he activated his golden sun breathing technique. Determined to challenge the storm, with a loud roar, Fang Yi pushed forward, carving a path through the lightning with his blazing sword. The clash between his golden energy and the raw thunder created a massive chaotic explosion. Blood dripped from his lips due to the intense strain, but his gaze remained fiery with resolve. He understood that this was a life or death moment. If he didn't push beyond his limits, he wouldn't survive. At last, after a grueling effort, he reached the summit. He stabbed his sword into the ground, splitting the rock, standing at the center of the storm. The energy here was overwhelming, so intense it made breathing difficult. He could feel the storm focusing on him, no longer just trying to repel him. It wanted to annihilate him. To prove its intent, the storm gathered its strength and released an enormous beam of white-hot lightning straight at him. It was a strike meant to erase him completely. As the blast approached, his system kicked in, detecting a thunder attribute and beginning to absorb it. Meanwhile, in the city below, spectators watched from a high rise, amazed. One person captured the scene on camera, shocked by the sheer size of the lightning bolt. Another speculated whether a deity was undergoing a trial, even claiming to have seen a figure in the sky. Back on the mountain, the battle ended in a brilliant flash of light. Fang Yi emerged victorious. A message from the system confirmed his success. He had absorbed refined divine thunder power, granting him the ability to summon heavenly lightning and transforming his body into something godlike. He received 5 writing points as a reward. Now floating in midair, enveloped in a mix of blue lightning and golden aura, Fang Yi assessed his new abilities. The thunder attribute was top-tier, ideal for both offense and defense. In contrast to his sun power, which leaned more towards protection, the thunder energy refined his physical form and boosted his overall strength. To him, thunder had become both his spear and his shield. But he also came to see another side of this power. It wasn't just about destruction. It also symbolized purification and renewal. He could feel his body being fortified, bones and muscles strengthened without any pain. The system offered him an upgrade called Punish Evil, which would grant double critical damage. It asked if he wanted to spend writing points to unlock it. Touching back down gently, Fang Yi pondered his next move. His first instinct was to fuse the new thunder power with his Tang sword. While it would enhance the blade, he was concerned it might corrupt the sword's sun attribute. Mixing too many elements into one item could weaken or even ruin it. Suddenly, a new idea came to him. Looking at his right hand, he decided to embed the thunder attribute directly into it. The system instantly responded, asking for confirmation to apply the attribute to the selected target. With a confident smile, he gave the order. In that moment, all the surrounding lightning surged into his right hand, as he claimed the storm's essence for himself. The next day, on Mount Yuhuang's storm-battered summit, the immediate danger had vanished. At the edge of a cliff, Su Qing and a military officer named Major Han Li stood over a line of body bags. Su Qing reported that the contamination level had mysteriously dropped from critical to mild within just 3 hours. Though traces of electricity lingered in the air, Major Han Li listened and quickly deduced the cause. Someone had been there. A seeker was someone who actively hunts these abnormal events. Su Qing was stunned, wondering if another seeker had truly gone through that storm and made it out alive. She knelt to search for clues but found none. The rain had likely washed away any remaining traces. She concluded that the person must have left around 8:00 p.m. the previous evening. Major Han Li agreed with her timeline. The strange activity had begun at 6:00 p.m., and the army sealed the mountain at 7:00 p.m., so whoever it was had entered before lockdown. Their instruments had predicted a rise to S-grade danger, but at 8:00 p.m., the energy level had abruptly plummeted. Standing at the area where lightning had struck the hardest, the Major offered his own theory. He believed the seeker had not only survived the storm, but harnessed its power, turning catastrophe into opportunity. He was certain this individual was behind the energy shift, but then he voiced his greatest concern. Individuals like this were incredibly dangerous because no one could tell where their loyalties lay. They had to find this person quickly. Miles away, completely unaware that he was now the subject of a military investigation, Fang Yi sat on his couch and let out a sudden loud sneeze. Back on the mountain, Major Han Li made his decision. He issued a direct order to his troops: locate this person at any cost. As the operation began, he assigned the unknown target a temporary codename, the Tyrant. The association quickly decides it must bring the Tyrant into their ranks and moves to suppress any news leaks. Major Han mentions that a high-level candidate is also attempting to reach the boy. Hearing this, Su Qing is briefly startled by her superior's revelation. She responds by confirming that he is the same person who cleansed the anomaly at the university gate. Internally, panic starts to rise in her chest. The young woman explains that although she tried to reach out to him, his movements are erratic, and he possesses the rare solar attribute. In her thoughts, she grows anxious, realizing she had no choice but to blend truth with partial lies to protect her identity. Upon learning about the solar element, Major Han becomes pensive, carefully considering this emerging powerhouse. He then commends her performance, saying that the organization's future depends on talented young individuals like her. To control the narrative, he decides to fabricate stories about natural disasters, admitting he dislikes releasing reports related to spiritual energy. Elsewhere at the protagonist's home, a storm rages outside as he quietly maps out his next steps. He activates his golden sun breathing technique to dry a jacket left on the couch. Using his power, the garment is instantly dried and gleams as though freshly unwrapped. After putting it on, he realizes that even with the addition of the thunder element, he can still sense a shift within. His right hand has changed physically. It now stands as the strongest part of his body, crackling with electricity. He marvels at how well he can now control such volatile energy and senses he is nearing a fresh breakthrough. Recalling the agonizing pain he experienced when he first awakened the solar element through his breathing method, he notes that while the thunder attribute has been suppressed, the system informs him it now delivers 300% more damage to enemies. Suddenly, a notification sound from his phone, which is on the table, draws his attention. With a focused expression, he grabs the device, curious about what might be unfolding in the world. On the screen, he sees an emergency alert issued by the government, warning of a global level shift. But he knows from experience that such warnings often signal hidden opportunities, temptations he finds impossible to ignore. His red eyes glow brightly. One headline catches his eye: a factory explosion. However, what grabs his attention is the strange pollution it caused. He reads online comments describing a chilling, sinister smell, and it feels disturbingly familiar. His mind flashes back to a terrifying moment from a previous life. He remembers hiding frozen in fear as a monstrous creature attacked helpless civilians. Red eyes. That beast had been a merciless predator. Now he wonders if the anomaly mentioned in the news might be one of the same kind. With his expression darkening, he begins connecting the dots. He knows these creatures thrive in darkness and can originate from either mutated animals or corrupted plants. This one, he senses, is far more dangerous, possibly 100 times more lethal, and must be stopped before it mutates further. Resolve. The protagonist gears up to test his new 300% critical damage power in a real battle. Launching himself into the night, he speeds through the rain-soaked streets. The roads are deserted, and the rain adds a haunting stillness as red traffic lights reflect off the wet pavement. As soon as the light turns green, he darts across the intersection in a blur. At the same time, an extermination squad from the association has lost track of a creature codenamed Candle Night. One agent explains the anomaly blends into shadows and preys on humans. With the storm overhead, the team knows it is only a matter of time before the thing begins feeding. Determined, the team leader states they cannot let that happen. Inside the command center, an operator updates the records under File 7 with the latest intel. The mission has now been raised to a B-level threat with a 12-hour deadline for containment. The team is ordered to continue pursuit, but prioritize their safety above all. Leaping across rooftops, one of the hunters acknowledges the order and keeps moving. The leader glances at a digital map and grumbles about the spread of mutations, which is overwhelming headquarters. Back at the operations center, a technician spots something odd on the city grid and tells the others to hold up. Moments later, a representative from the Spiritual Energy Association appears on the main monitor with a stern look. The wing team leader is currently deployed for surveillance and offers temporary support. The extermination team's chief and his partner glance up at the screen, both visibly unimpressed. On a nearby rooftop, the girl from the wing team and her unit peer down at the field agents with visible contempt. The man accuses the anomaly of devouring humans. She retorts sharply, asking if that is supposed to be his way of asking for help. Coldly, she declares that the extermination unit is capable enough and says they are leaving. The team leader quickly apologizes, stressing that without their tracking expertise, the entire city could fall. The two teams unite on a rooftop to scan the city and track down the creature. One of the agents activates his ability, and a bluish glow forms in his hand before locking onto their target. The energy then expands into a large swirling vortex, launching toward the monster's hidden location. They discover the beast peacefully feeding in a dark, damp place it seems to prefer. The wing team's leader immediately commands the sabotage unit to initiate the operation to neutralize the target. Suddenly, the monster halts its feeding. Its whiskers twitch as it senses something nearby. It detects the agent's presence, prompting the sabotage team to instantly switch into attack mode. In a sudden burst of speed, the creature charges straight at the approaching hunters. One of the agents sprints forward, aiming to strike from the eastern side. The others close in, surrounding the creature and locking it in an attack formation. Soaring through the air, one of the hunters launches the first strike against the anomaly. The blow lands squarely on the creature's back, but it appears ineffective. The beast digs its claws deep into the ground, bracing itself to counter. A strange, dangerous energy starts to surge along its spine. With a roar, the creature releases a wave of dark sonic force. The squad leader shouts a warning to avoid the blast and retreat immediately. The wave slams into the agents as they try to shield themselves from the destructive power. As they pull back, one team member asks the commander if he's alright. The leader replies that the creature's strength is overwhelming and that staying any longer would have meant complete annihilation. The anomaly then spreads its wings, charging green energy in its throat. It unleashes a concentrated green blast toward the ground. Looking down, the beast observes the energy pooling below, forming a fresh danger. An agent quickly warns that it's burrowing underground with corrosive energy, but the commander tells them to maintain formation. The mission now is to gather combat data. With dagger gripped tightly, an agent steels themselves for what's to come. In the shadows, a pair of red glowing eyes flickers to life, staring at the team with menace. Suddenly, the winged creature swoops down, striking one agent from above in a swift, savage attack. Witnessing this, the second team leader yells to stop the creature and pursue it at any cost. The monster then flees, gliding through the streets and leaving behind a trail of eerie green mist. The team halts on another rooftop when the girl among them senses something off and tells the others to hold position. Inside an abandoned factory, she begins measuring the spiritual energy levels in the area. The blonde-haired guy asks about the results, and she replies that the creature's energy was at 40 just moments ago. But then the device shows a sudden spike over 80 and still climbing. Realization hits they're not dealing with just one anomaly. A second creature emerges from the darkness. Shocked by the new threat, the girl and the other team's leader freeze in disbelief. The man quickly realizes it was a trap all along and shouts for everyone to retreat. The young woman fires a beam of energy at the gate, declaring that if they combine their power, they can force it open again. Just then, she senses something wrong. A green mist begins to envelop her, and she tries to shield herself. Too late, she's been poisoned and collapses. As the enemy approaches, the girl calls out for help, but there's no response. She finds herself alone inside the crumbling factory. It dawns on her that the anomaly had led them into another beast's lair, which she suspects is a giant serpent. Her fear becomes real as a colossal snake, with glowing green eyes, rises from the fog. The poisonous gas keeps sapping her strength, and she knows she won't survive without a barrier. With no energy left, she falls to the floor, accepting the terrifying thought that this could be her end. At that moment, a beam of brilliant light breaks through the factory ceiling, catching her attention. Struggling to move, she lifts her eyes to see a figure descending from the opening. A powerful explosion follows, blasting part of the ceiling apart. Amidst the falling debris, a silhouette emerges. She watches in awe from the floor, still overwhelmed by the surprise arrival. From above, our hero lands with a steady and confident presence. His boots strike the ground with impact as he prepares to face the new threat. Facing the monster sword drawn, he remarks, "So this is a shadow-type anomaly." The giant serpent lets out a roar, baring its fangs as it readies to attack. From behind, the winged creature launches an ambush, but the hero reacts with a sharp kick, knocking it away mid-air. Still, the beast manages to clamp its jaws on his shoulder. Spotting the serpent still below, he realizes there are two enemies, one to lure and one to kill. With a grim smirk, he mocks the one on his shoulder, asking if it's got a biting fetish. Then he unleashes a blast of full thunder power from his hand to teach the beast a painful lesson. The surge of yellow lightning crashes into the serpent, triggering a massive explosion. Turning to the giant snake, the hero asks, "Are you afraid of fire?" The giant serpent lunged forward with a deafening roar, its massive jaws wide open, ready to devour its prey. Fang Yi moved with impressive agility, flipping through the air to avoid the attack, all while swinging his glowing golden sword. As he landed, he coolly addressed the beast, telling it to focus on his blade, a clear invitation to battle. The serpent hesitated, wary of the weapon's radiant glow. Seizing the opportunity, Fang Yi launched his counterattack. Soaring through the air, he struck the serpent's face with a devastating slash, his sword crackling with blue thunder energy. The impact was powerful, but the outcome was unexpected. Instead of shattering the monster's skull, its head split in two, peeling apart like it was shedding skin to reveal another identical head beneath. Landing gracefully, Fang Yi stared in disbelief at the bizarre transformation. The split head tore away completely, discarding its outer layer and unveiling the creature's true, restored form. As green energy surged through its neck, Fang Yi realized the battle was far from over. The serpent writhed in shock and pain as residual lightning from Fang Yi's sword surged through its body. It let out a furious roar, the thunder energy overpowering the dark forces within it. Watching the beast twist in agony, Fang Yi smirked slightly. He had the upper hand. He had already sensed that this serpent's dark aura was even more intense than Candle Knight's. He then revealed his strategy. When he struck with his sword, he had intentionally restrained the full power of his flame. Instead, he used the blade to conduct the thunder energy straight from his hand into the serpent's body. Comparing the two creatures, he understood this serpent was a more advanced and dangerous threat than Candle Knight had ever been. Then, a sudden sharp pain in his shoulder reminded him of the rat-like creature's bite. He gritted his teeth and looked down, noticing odd purple snake scales spreading from the wound. It made sense now, just as he had suspected. This was an intelligent mutated species. Its venom, delivered through its partner's bite, had a paralyzing effect designed for silent kills. Though the pain was intense, he also felt his golden sun breathing technique kicking in, actively resisting the venom. With a focused expression, he realized he had the perfect countermeasure. His yang flame energy could burn through the poison. The golden sun technique would protect and heal his body, while the thunder energy would cleanse any lingering toxins. As his powers surged within him, Fang Yi understood just how valuable this combination was. The blend of yang flame and thunder now worked as an internal alarm system, alerting him instantly to any poison. He considered himself fortunate. Others likely wouldn't have survived the serpent's stealthy venom. He figured the serpent had grown so massive by ambushing its victims. The image of a den filled with skulls flashed through his mind. With Candle Knight as the perfect decoy, the two monsters had formed a deadly trap capable of eliminating even elite pioneers. No wonder so many had vanished. But in the end, it was over. As he watched the serpent's enormous skeleton crumble into ash beneath his holy flames, Fang Yi felt a sense of closure. His inner fire had proven strong, but it was the triple critical impact from his new thunder ability that secured the win. He now felt confident. His combat skills were easily on par with top-level pioneers. He stood quietly for a moment, gazing at the dying flames. Just as he turned to leave, something made him pause. His hand stretched out instinctively. He could sense someone nearby. Narrowing his eyes, he turned just in time to catch a figure stumbling out of the smoke, coughing through the ash. It was Su Qingying. She stood silently, covered in dust and clearly exhausted, but alive. As the air cleared, Fang Yi saw the unconscious members of her squad surrounding her. Recognizing her as the association agent, he casually told her there was no need to pretend anymore. Her attempt to fake unconsciousness wasn't convincing. She blushed and covered her face, caught off guard. Realizing Realizing that this was the same mysterious pioneer she had been tracking, Su Qinjing quickly made an excuse, saying the smell had woken her. But Fang Yi saw right through her. He acknowledged her efforts, noting that while the others were completely drained, she had cleverly saved a bit of spiritual energy to protect herself. If she had truly been knocked out, he reasoned, she wouldn't have noticed any smell. Flustered, Su Qinjing muttered a soft thank you. Internally, she was stunned. He had figured her out entirely. She had, in fact, kept a small reserve of energy for emergencies. But what truly amazed her was how he had managed to take down both Candle Knight and the serpent on his own. Noticing her awkwardness, Fang Yi softened his tone. He gently told her not to hide her face and explained that all he wanted was for her to be honest with him and to keep his identity a secret. Once he confirmed that she and her team were safe, he said it was getting late and prepared to leave. Su Qinjing called out to him, but he was already gone. With a grin, he said that explaining everything would ruin the surprise, then vaulted effortlessly through the hole in the factory roof and vanished into the night sky. As he sprinted across the rooftops, Fang Yi reflected on the battle. He was relieved that Su Qinjing hadn't tried to absorb any of the monster's dark energy. He still remembered how cold and sickening it felt. He wondered why he himself couldn't absorb it. Perhaps the dark energy had already dispersed, or maybe his body instinctively rejected it. He decided to worry about it later. Back in the now silent factory, Su Qinjing stared up at the moonlight pouring in through the hole Fang Yi had left behind. She sighed, disappointed she hadn't gotten a proper look at his face. More importantly, she realized he still didn't trust her or the association. Her moment of reflection was brief. Switching back into her leadership role, she strode over to the unconscious destroyer squad captain and gave him a few firm slaps. He groaned, slowly regaining consciousness, bruised and disoriented. As panic set in, he bolted upright, shouting that they had been ambushed. Su Qinjing calmly stood by. The squad leader and his men finally saw what she already knew, the enormous charred remains of the serpent lying nearby. Their eyes widened in stunned disbelief. Still dazed, the leader asked what had happened and where the overwhelming yang energy had come from. Su Qinjing explained that a powerful pioneer had intervened and saved them. She gave a well-prepared summary, stating that the person was likely the same figure from her original mission, a high-level individual with strong yang attributes. Her explanation left the team speechless. One member expressed disbelief that a single person had defeated both of those monsters. Su Qinjing added that she hadn't managed to recruit him, and that he had even traced her location, making him even more mysterious. Returning to business, the squad leader asked about Candle Knight's body. He began using a green energy skill to cleanse the area, explaining they needed to recover any remains for the association. As the teams began their cleanup, the squad leader used a glowing green orb to collect what remained of the dark energy left behind. As he stepped forward, his foot crushed a small fragment of debris, which suddenly burst in a flash of brilliant blue lightning. The shock made him recoil in pain as Su Qinjing looked on, equally surprised. The discovery only deepened the mystery. The remains, which they now identified as Candle Knights, were still alive with electrical energy. Turning to Su Qinjing, the leader questioned her earlier report. She had said the mystery pioneer wielded yang powers, yet this fierce thunder energy painted a different picture. They both knelt beside the charged remains. Su Qinjing was amazed by the sheer strength of the thunder energy. It was clearly a high-grade power. That led the squad leader to suggest a new theory. Perhaps two powerful pioneers had arrived, one who defeated the serpent and another who destroyed Candle Knight, before leaving together. Su Qinjing knew that wasn't true, but she didn't know how to explain the impossible. She remembered the image of the lone warrior, wielding both roaring golden flames and blazing blue lightning. No one would believe it. Just having one of those elite powers made someone a genius. Having both was unheard of, yet the evidence was right in front of them. The smoldering skeleton of the serpent had clearly been burned by a yang flame walker, and the electrified corpse of Candle Knight bore the signature of a thunder tyrant. The combined teams could only stare in awe, silently wondering what kind of monster this unknown pioneer truly was. As backup forces from the association arrived, Su Qinjing felt relieved that she had left part of her team waiting outside. If she had stayed inside much longer without checking in, they might have already filed a missing person report. Her two teammates, previously knocked out by the serpent's venom, finally regained consciousness. They rushed to her side, eyes welling with tears, overjoyed to see their captain alive. Now that the threat had been neutralized, the association's squad switched from rescue mode to investigation. Their new task was a forensic analysis. With the help of high-tech scanners, they examined the remaining spiritual traces and battle damage, trying to reconstruct the events for a detailed report to headquarters. Not long after, one of the specialists approached Su Qinjing and the commander of the destroyer squad. His report was shocking. After carefully comparing fighting styles, damage patterns, and residual energy, the data showed a 99% likelihood that the same individual had killed both monsters. The two squad leaders locked eyes, visibly shaken and deeply concerned. Around them, members of both teams whispered in disbelief. The idea that a single pioneer had defeated both creatures, using two distinct high-tier powers, was something they had never imagined. Each monster alone could have wiped them all out. Yet someone had slain them, likely with just a few decisive moves. The gap in strength was staggering. Recognizing the weight of this discovery, Su Qinjing promptly contacted her superior. She reported that the target's profile had changed drastically. As she glanced up at the hole in the ceiling above, she confirmed her new conclusion: the mysterious university pioneer and the powerful individual codenamed Tyrant were actually the same person. In his office, her superior listened quietly to the report. After digesting the news, he gave Su Qinjing a new directive to suspend her mission immediately. He reasoned that this individual had saved her team, eliminated the monsters, and secured the area, which were hardly the actions of a hostile party. He also mentioned that he and Old Han, Major Han Li, disagreed on the assessment. For her own safety, and to avoid souring relations with someone of such overwhelming strength, she was instructed to cease contact with Tyrant for the time being. Still on the call, Su Qinjing accepted the order, but decided to bring up one last theory. She reminded her boss of the time she had tracked Tyrant to the back mountain where he was cultivating. Back then, she had sensed an unusually intense aura from his location. Initially, she had guessed he might possess a spiritual weapon, but dismissed the idea as now that he had demonstrated mastery over two high-tier powers, that earlier suspicion felt much more plausible. Her superior was surprised by this possibility and asked for clarification. When she explained further, he frowned in doubt. He leaned back in his chair and said it was very unlikely. A lone pioneer, no matter how gifted, should not be able to obtain a spiritual weapon without support. On top of that, their scans had revealed no sign of a third spiritual energy signature, which would typically accompany a separately forged weapon. Su Qinjing quickly clarified something crucial. The weapon, like aura she had felt, was not external. It was clearly a yang attribute. That detail changed everything. Her superior's eyes widened as realization dawned. If the weapon's attribute stemmed from the user's own energy, then it was not a separate tool. It was self-made. That could only mean one thing. This pioneer had reached the spirit creation realm. Cultivators at that level could theoretically craft spiritual weapons from their own energy, but such power was almost mythical. Su Qinjing felt overwhelmed by the implications. She knew only two such individuals existed globally. Her superior then considered a more alarming scenario. If the pioneer actually wielded a third element, it would shatter current assumptions and destabilize the entire pioneer system. He explained that according to all available research, multiple attributes naturally conflicted within a single body. Having even two was considered rare and dangerous. Three had never been documented. So if the spiritual weapon they theorized truly did not emit a separate energy signal, it might actually be a blessing. It would mean no third conflicting attribute was involved. As the call ended, the superior was left with a single chilling thought. They could only pray that someone this powerful would never turn against humanity. Meanwhile, at his apartment, Fang Yi stood under the hot stream of a shower, letting the water rinse away the grime and fatigue from the recent battle. After drying off, he took a moment to reflect on the state of the world. He knew the official spiritual energy revival was less than a year away, but the rising frequency of monster attacks and strange events made it clear that the changes had already begun. With a flick of his hand, he used his yang energy to dry his clothes, golden light wrapping around his fingers. As he pondered how many pioneers like him were secretly cultivating already, he thought back to the hostile group he encountered near the lava river. He understood now that once a person's spiritual channels were opened, they naturally became more attuned to the world's changes. Many rogue pioneers had already reached the one-star Ghost Axe realm, even without state support. That the government was beginning to engage wild pioneers like him through agents like Su Qinjing showed that this was a delicate period of cautious cooperation. Standing alone in his room, Fang Yi thought about Su Qinjing and Major Han Li. For now, the monster threat was manageable, and the various pioneer factions were avoiding major conflict. But he knew this fragile peace would not last. The government had quietly formed the Spiritual Energy Cultivation Association, but had yet to inform the public. Their strategy was obvious. By addressing regional problems quietly and sending subtle warnings, they were trying to avoid panic. Despite his victories, Fang Yi's outlook on the future remained bleak. He believed the authorities were simply too hesitant to launch a full-scale cultivation movement. With such a massive population, the truth could spark chaos and mass death. Even official pioneers could not hold back the collapse if fear spread. He admitted the government's gentle approach was not wrong. Panic could do more harm than any monster. But what truly alarmed him was the rapid evolution of these monsters. It was happening far faster than expected. He reviewed the details of the creatures he had just fought. According to his system, they were tainted with dark energy, specifically a subbranch called Shadow Attribute. It was deadly to pioneers, and something he currently could not absorb. They were more intelligent than typical beasts, capable of setting traps and working together to hunt humans. Yet, in Fang Yi's eyes, they were still minor threats compared to the dark-type monsters from his past life, the kind that could obliterate entire nations. This recent encounter was a harsh reminder of what was coming. Without his presence, Su Qinjing's entire unit would have been slaughtered. One line from the system gave him hope. The dark attribute was only temporarily unabsorbable. That suggested he might one day gain the ability to wield it himself. If so, that power could become a key advantage in the future. He went over his current strength. He had mastered the Golden Sun breathing technique of the Yang attribute, the Divine Thunder tempering of the Thunder attribute, and the Crimson Flame blade technique. With these high-tier skills and his current level as a 3-star Ghost Axe Realm pioneer, he knew few could stand against him. Still, despite his power, Fang Yi knew he was not yet strong enough. His thoughts were broken by the ringing of his phone. Seeing his aunt's name on the screen surprised him. After exchanging brief greetings and assuring her he was fine, she got to the point. His cousin would soon be arriving in the city for her studies. Worried about her staying alone, she asked if the girl could stay at his place for a few days instead of booking a hotel. Fang Yi paused, trying to recall what his cousin even looked like. All he remembered was a quiet girl obsessed with studying, someone he had not seen in years. Still, he agreed, telling his aunt there was a spare room. When he asked when the cousin would arrive, his aunt simply said she would give the girl his address and let her find her way there. Elsewhere, in a dim room lit only by a glowing monitor, a figure with long, claw-like fingers tapped rapidly on a keyboard. She wore an oversized hoodie with bare animal-like ears and had just finished a call with her mother. Her mother told her to arrive at her cousin's apartment by the next afternoon and promised to bring some hometown snacks. The girl replied politely, saying it was no trouble and she had some things to finish. On her screen was an online chat labeled Spiritual Energy Revival Martial Arts Vanguard Team. Under the username Feng Heju, she had just posted that she was arriving in the city and would be staying with her cousin. She closed the chat and clicked on a rumor alert. It was about a town dubbed Death Town, where 3 people had vanished while attempting the Pork Beast Challenge. A blood-streaked image of the town accompanied the article. Her glasses caught the screen's reflection as she identified the place Yanghuo Town. Her curiosity flared. Just then, her mother entered, asking if she had packed. Feng Haju replied that she had, though she would prefer a hotel to avoid burdening her cousin. Her mother firmly insisted. Staying with him was safer, and she trusted the boy completely. Gently ushering her out the door, she reminded her daughter not to cause trouble and to help around the house. Feng Heju nodded, promising to behave. Once outside, she exhaled lightly. To her, this visit was just another obstacle to overcome. Pushing up her glasses, she made up her mind. No matter how odd her cousin turned out to be, there was no way he could be harder to deal with than a monster. The next afternoon, under a clear blue sky, a young woman with long black hair and glasses wheeled a suitcase toward a quiet apartment building. She checked her phone once more. The map had led her here. Looking up at the building, she murmured softly to herself, "This should be the place," ready to finally meet the cousin she barely remembered. If you're excited for the next part, leave a comment and I'll do my best to bring it to you as soon as possible.